Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Kesubos Chaf Zayin. We are holding, there's a Mishnah around halfway down the Amud, so we are 5 lines above that Mishnah. That's what we got to yesterday, when we discussed the halacha of the Isha who was in the hands of the Goyim. There's a concern that they mistreated her, and she is usher to her husband in a case where we have good reason to believe that perhaps something inappropriate occurred, such as alidei nefashos. Suppose she was condemned to death, and perhaps as a result, they mistreated her. Alidei nefashos asur lebalo amar Rav. He's going to add another case. Even if the Isha herself was not guilty of capital punishment, still there could be a concern as well. If her husband is a criminal, in which case they condemn the husband to death, and therefore their wives as well, their families as well, are considered, Rashi says they make them hefker. They just neglect and they mistreat their family as well. Amrav Kagoin Neshei Ganvi, like the wives of thieves. Velevi Amar Kagoin Ishtoi Shel Ben Dunai. A thief's wife, no, there's no real concern there. But the wife of a fellow, his name was Elazar ben Dunai, Rashi says. He was a known murderer, Reitzeach. So in this case, the concern applies. We're concerned that due to his severe criminal involvement, his family becomes hefker and is neglected, and his wife perhaps was abused and mistreated. But wife of a ganav, not so terrible, and we're not really concerned in that case. That's the machlekes between Rav and Levi. Omar Chizkiya, who provided, meaning this concern only applies shenigmar dinan hariga, if in fact the courts have decided to kill this fellow, so then they mistreat the family as well. Rabbi Yehuda Amar afapisha lo nigmar dinan hariga, even if they didn't get to that point, the legal process has not yet culminated. Still, it's in the process, and that is enough to raise concerns about perhaps mistreatment of his family. Says the Mishnah, Ir shekavshua karkem. Karkem is a band of troops, soldiers, and Rashi says karkem actually means a motzar. In the Chumash we have motzar, a siege, and the targum of that is karkuma. So soldiers lay a siege on the city, and they're pretty much, the residents of the city are pretty much in their hands, right? Kol kaihanis, any kaihanis, any women kaihan found in the city is considered pasul. Rashi says she can't stay with her husband, because by a kaihan's wife, even if something occurred against her will, that makes her usher to her husband. So in this case, we're concerned that perhaps the troops had access to the kaihanis in the town. They are deemed pasul. However, if the woman has an aid, Eidim, 2 Eidim, afilu eved, afilu shifcha, even if it's one aid, not even a single aid who is a kosher aid, even if he's an eved, a shifcha, we're mekel. If they support her status, her purity, hare elo ne'eman, and they are believed, ve'ein ne'eman adam adei atzmi, but of course a person can't be trusted on himself. I'm okay, that's not enough. You need somebody from the outside, an outside verification of your status. So in the Mishnah we learned that a charkaim presents a concern. Veraminu. We have a kasha from another brayso, which says, baleshas. That's a similar idea. You have a band of troops coming to look for goodies, look for treasures. And the Gilyon Ashas brings a targum in Chumash Bereshis, Parakim Dalet. Vayichapes. He looked, he searched, and the targum says a balash. So a baleshas sheba leir. This troop comes to the city, and they're looking for goodies, they're looking to plunder. Bishas shalem, if it's more or less peacetime, so they're taking their time, they're not in a hurry, they're not hasty to move on to battle. So they're taking their time, and we were concerned that perhaps they had access to the to the wine, etc. So we have open barrels of wine. The wine is considered asur because perhaps the goyim used it, they poured it for the avodah zarah, which made it yain nesach. Mutarai, stumois mutaris. Sealed barrels of wine are considered mutar. It's clear they had no access to the wine. That's during peacetime, when they have time to do these things. B'shas milchama. But if it's wartime, so war is raging and they're in a haste, they're running through town, they have no time to get involved in nisuch hayayin. Elu ve'elu mutaris, whether it's open or closed barrels, they're considered to be protected. Why? There's no time to do the avodah zarah, to pour the wine. Question is, if so, then why in our Mishnah do we learn that a harkem, which is really a band of troops en route to war, in the middle of war, laying siege on a city? I mean, you don't get more war than that. And the Mishnah says, we're concerned that they perhaps mistreated the Kehanis. Who has time? The war is, battle is raging. Big difference, says the Gemara. Wine is different and noshim are different. Amav Mari, live oil yesh panai. They'll find time to get involved with the women. Rashi says they're motivated, a strong desire, they're takivlu yitzrayu, says Rashi. But lanasich, ain't panai. To get involved with pouring wine, that there's no time for. So the difference between wine, that remains okay, and the noshim, where there's a concern. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Elazar, it says, I'll tell you another difference. Another teretz between the Mishnah, where the women are considered mistreated, and the Brisa, where we seem to see that they have no time to get involved in local issues. The difference is who. Depends who the troops are. Kan, b'charkem shloisa malchus. And the Brisa was speaking about a local band of troops from the local authority. Rashi says they're perhaps going over to the next town and capturing it to bring it into their into their domain, to tax them, etc. So in this case, they want the residents, they want the local citizens to be happy, and therefore they don't abuse or mistreat them. That's the Brisa. Kan, but our Mishnah, where there is a concern, is speaking b'charkim shel malchus acheres. Foreign legion coming from out of town, they don't really have much interest in keeping the local residents happy. There's a real concern that even during wartime, they mistreated, they abused the local population. Asks the Gemara, shel oisa malchus nami. So let's say it's a local crowd. It also poses concern. True, officially, they're not meant to abuse the local town. But it's kind of hard to believe that even one soldier didn't just slip away and abuse the local women. Amar Vidam Ashmol Kashemeshmoros was speaking that the guards, the groups of guards, Royos Zoy, they're looking out for each other, they're keeping an eye on each other. Unlikely that somebody slipped away. Well, still, hard to believe that they doze off a bit in the middle of the night, and perhaps that allowed the opportunity for somebody to slip away and access the local population. Omar Belevi, they had a double, triple security system, an alarm system, to prevent any infiltrations. Kigoy de Mahadala Lamasa was speaking that they surrounded the city with shoshilta, chains, with kalba, dogs, with gavza, splinters of wood which make noise when you step over them. Va'avza, ducks, who would sound the alarm. So perhaps the point was to prevent escape from town, and likewise, it provides security and an alarm system to ensure that nobody enters the town. So you know the town is safe. Amar Baba Bar Zavda, Pligiba, Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanan. Actually, this question of what happened, the question of how to explain the halacha, is a machlekes between the two Amoraim, Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan. Chad Amar once said, "Kan b'charkem shleisa malchus, kan b'charkem shel malchus acheres." As we explained, why in one halacha, the Mishnah, we find that the Kehanis are in trouble. And in the Brisa, we seem to see they have no time to make trouble. The troops, that is. The difference is the identity of the troop, local or foreigners. And nothing else was going to be difficult. Everything was addressed with just this teretz alone. The other Shita still had all these kashas. Well, sure, it's a local troop. They're looking after the well-being of the locals, but still, you never know. Somebody might have slipped away and made some trouble. Umeshani, and he answered, as we explained, there was a security system in place. Umeshani kigayin mahada leila mosa shoshota v'kalba v'gavza v'avza, as we explained. So the bottom line is, let's just recap. We had a stira, and now Mishnah. The Kehanis are in trouble, concerned about the Karkaim making trouble. In the Brisa, we learned that Bishas Milchama, during wartime, there's no time to make trouble. Two answers. For Yetzirah, for Nashim, there's always time. And number two, it all depends on the identity of the band of troops, local or long distance. Amrab Idibar Abna Rabbi Yitzchak bar Ashin. Here comes a chiddush. Im yesh shamach boya achas. This town, which was surrounded by a karka, Kehanis are in trouble. But let's say there is a hiding place. There's a bunker where they can hide, even if there's just one bunker. Matzeles, alkol, haKehanis kulan. All Kehanis are deemed safe. We'll just assume that they hid and protected from the goyim. Boy Rabbi Yirmiyah. What about the following case? Eine machzekes ela achas ma'u. Suppose it's a small-sized one-man bunker. What is the halacha here? Mi amrina, shall we say? Kol chada v'chada. Hainu ha. Let's assume that Rachel was in there. So she's okay. We deal with Leah's status. We'll say, okay, maybe she was the one who hid. Okay, she's kosher. We go to the next Isha. So each Isha can take advantage of this possibility. Or lo yamrinan. We can't say that. We know for a fact there was only room for one, not more. That's an interesting shaila. Asks the Gemara, but why are you even posing this question? Why would this be different in the case of the two pathways? Echad tamei. On one pathway we have a caver. We know you walk on that path, you're a tamei. V'echad tar, the other pathway, was completely clean of tumah. And Reuben walked on one of the pathways, and va'asa taharis, and then got involved with food items which had been considered tar. Problem is, he doesn't know whether he walked on the tar path or on the tamei path. It's an unknown. We don't know which one is tamei, which one is tar. So he was involved in a suffix tumah bir reshus harabim. Halacha is when you get involved with a tumah in the street and there's an uncertainty, it's tar. So Reuven had a shaila. I walked on one of these shvilin, touched something. And his friend likewise, Shimon, did the same. Walked on the other pathway and touched something afterwards. So if only one person would come ask a question, suppose only one person wasn't involved. Reuben, no Shimon in the story. There was no question. It's tar. Suffix tumah, which occurs in Reshus Harabim, is tar. Problem is, we have two people involved. It's sort of a contradiction because inevitably somebody became tamei. He walked on this pathway, he walked on the other one. So how do we deal with this? Rabbi Yehuda Omer, it depends how they're asking the question. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, nishal zeh b'fnei atzmi. If Reuven came to ask independently, I have a story, I walked on one of these shvilin, touched taris, what is my halach? V'zeh b'fnei atzmi, and Shimon likewise came separately, asked to ask his question. Tahiris, and everything's fine. You're a tahar, and 10 minutes later, you're a tahar. Shneim ka'achas tmeis. They come together as one. I have my question. They both presented as one in one sitting. We cannot paskin that it's tar. It's a self-contradiction. One of these people are tar, so you cannot make them tar. They're both tar. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, benkach benkach tmein. Whether they came separate or together, it's tamei. V'amar Rava. I have to explain what Rabbi Yehuda means. Why would they both be tummy if each one came on his own? So Rav explains. V'amar Rav, b'tei mesam ser b'yichnon. B'vas achas divrei hakol tmein. They come together as one. All shittis, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi agree, tummy. B'zeh achazeh, they come separately. Divrei hakol Torah. So he comes today, he comes tomorrow. Each one on his own is Torah. There's no question in these two cases. When do we have a machlekes between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda? Ela bevali shoel olav ve'el chaveri. Suppose only Reuben comes to Bezdin, but he's coming to ask on his behalf, and also on his friend Shimon's behalf, who asked him to present a shaila to Bezdin. So pretty much it pertains to two separate people, reflective of two separate incidents, but it's being posed by one petitioner who's asking for himself and his friend. It's sort of so-so. It's in between here. It pertains to two people, but being presented by one petitioner on behalf of both people. So how do we look at it? Is it one issue, or can we split the issue into two? If it's one, then you can't be mitayr both. If we look at it separately, then we can. And that's the machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda, who separates them. So each one separately can be tahar. Rabbi Yossi puts them together. Inevitably, they're tamei. Mar medamei b'asachas. Rabbi Yossi says this is like Reuben and Shimon came together, where we know they have to be treated as tamei. Umar medamei lebazachar. Rabbi Yehuda says, fact is, it pertains to two separate people, two separate individuals, who have no connection to each other, unrelated. Each one can be viewed independently, and therefore it's tar. So that's the known case of Shnei Shvilin, a classic Gemara brought here, brought many other places. Shnei Shvilin. So how does it pertain to us? Well, we had a question. They discovered a bunker in town with only room for one person. Now we have 10 women here. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah, I have a question. Could we treat each one as the escapee, as though she hid in the bunker, and make her tar? Says the Gemara, you can't. V'achanami here as well, just like with the two pathways. You can't self-contradict yourself. Kivin the sharlu l'kulu. Kibasachas dami. When Leah comes and asks her question, look, I know there was a siege, there was trouble in town, but there was a bunker. I want you to treat me as tahar. Right? So when we consider her tahar, because we assume she hid in the bunker, that's reason to make her tar. But by doing that, by posketing that you are tar, in effect, we are also issuing a psak on everybody else in town. You're tar and she's tar and the other person's tar. So it's like one comprehensive, all-encompassing psak on all the women. It's b'vasachas. Rashi says we pass like Rabbi Yossi, even though only Rachel arrives in Bezdin, but the fact is her question really pertains to all the women as well. So when we go and we paskin for all the women, we can't make them all tahar. It's impossible. They couldn't have all hidden in the one-man bunker. Asks the Gemara, what's the connection between the two cases? How could you compare the two? Two pathways. There is certainly a caver on them, on one of them. So you can't contradict. You can't make both pathways tar. But in this case, by the Kehanes, you don't know what happened. It's a chumrah. Perhaps the guy had access. Perhaps they mistreated her. You could be makel in this case. Says the Gemara, Bar Ravashi, Amr loynach beisiv lenitmeisi mau. You see, we spoke about the bunker, we spoke about the opportunity to hide, to get away, but what? We never really discussed what she is saying. What is she claiming? Is she actually claiming she hid in the bunker? So here comes the next Gemara, which will focus on that. She acknowledges, I didn't hide in the bunker. No. But you should know, I was pure, I was fine, I wasn't affected by the goyim. So she claims she hid in the bunker, fine. But let's say she acknowledges she wasn't there. But at the same time she says, Lo nitzmeisi. Mahu, do we believe her? Mi amrinan mali l'shakar. Why would she lie? She could have easily said, I was in the bunker. She wanted to lie, she could have said that. So let's believe her when she claims, oh, I wasn't in the bunker, but I was fine. Or perhaps no, we can't say that because the very fact that there were goyim in town leads us to believe there was something wrong, and it's like almost going against an established fact that she's telling. Asks the Gemara, what's your question? Why would this be any different than the following story? This fellow, he hired out his donkey to his friend, and he warned him, look, take good care of my donkey. Don't go on that road, the Nahar Pekoid, near the river Pekoid, which is flooded. There's water there. My donkey is not gonna survive the trip. Rather, Zil Ba'urcha the Narash, go into the other, take the other route, the Narash route. There's no water there. Now, what did the fellow do? But he took the wrong route. Va'azal iu Ba'urcha the Nahar Pekoid. So the donkey driver drove him through Nahar Pekoid. In fact, the donkey did not survive. Asal came to Rava, so he came to Rava. Amar and he tells Rava, look, I'll tell you what happened. In Ba'urcha the Nahar Pekoid Asli. Correct, I went through the Nahar Pekoid route. But the fact is, there was no water at that time. That has nothing to do with what happened with the donkey. So on the one hand, he's being made, he's acknowledging, I took the wrong route. But at the same time, he's claiming the donkey's death was unrelated to water. Amarava, Mali l'shakar. Of course we believe him. Why would he lie? If he wished, Amarla, he could have said, Baruch Adonarish Azli. I took the Narash route, the safe route. There was no GPSs in those days, so there was nobody to disprove him. He could have easily claimed as such. He acknowledged, I went through the Nahar Pekoid. But then we have to believe when he says there was no water. Formerly, Abai response. Typically, yeah, amigo works. But here, when it's against a known fact, an established phenomenon, we know there's water. How can he deny the fact? Mali l'shakar b'mokim edim la'amrina. Mali l'shakar, this concept of why would I lie, this concept of migu, in the face of edim, in the face of a known fact, has no value. And therefore, he has to pay for the donkey. The Gemara is comparing it to our case. The Isha claims, look, I didn't hide, but I still wasn't affected by the troops. We can't believe her. Why? It's an established fact that when troops have access, there's trouble. How can you compare? The case of the donkey, it is certain. We know there's water on that road. You can't deny the facts. In town, there's no vadei tumah chashashu. It's just a concern. It's a real concern, but it's not an established fact. It's not anan sahadi. You're not going against the grain, against the established mitzius. Uvamakam chashash amrin, and if it's only a chashash, we can't accept the migu. So even though she's acknowledging, I did not hide in the bunker, but at the same time she's claiming she's pure, we believe it. So typically there is a chashash. But im yesh edim, afilu eved, afilu shivcha ne'eman, if there's any sort of witness, even an eved, a shivcha, that she's okay, then she is tar. Afilu shivcha di da'mehemna. You mean even her own personal maidservant is believed? For Ramini, we have a kasha from a Mishnah that her own shivcha, you can't trust her. She's on her mistress' side, and she'll vouch for her. You can't give any credibility to one's personal maidservant. So Rashi explains, we're speaking about a fellow who wrote a get his wife, so in between writing and giving, you can't be misyachid because maybe there's interaction which invalidates the get. So if there's going to be yichud, if they're going to stay in private together, there needs to be some sort of edim to protect them from further interaction. Even if there's just an eved or a shivcha, that's enough. They'll prevent interaction. If there's any issues, they'll report to us. Except if it's her personal maidservant, because she's very, familiar with, very close with her, emotionally close with her shivcha, and this won't prevent any interaction. and she won't tell us about it. Apparently, a shifcha is not believed. Amra papi b'shvuya hikilu. Typically, a shifcha has no ne'emanos. But when it comes to shvuya, which in itself is only a chumrah, an isha was captured, chashash of tumah, it's only a chumrah. So we allow any sort of testimony, even a personal shivcha, who typically is not really trusted, would not really incriminate her mistress, but when it comes to our story, any sort of testimony, even a shivcha would work. Rav Papa Amar, it depends whose shivcha. If it's her personal maidservant, no ne'emanos. But if it's his, the husband's, that's okay. So you join that line between him and her. If it's her shivcha, there's no ne'emanos. Haktani ein adam meid al atzmei. Take a look at the Mishnah. A person cannot speak about himself. I am tahor. Let's make a diuk. You can't speak about yourself. So she can't vouch for her own purity. But if it's a shivcha, it's not her, it's outside her. Even if it's her maidservant, that is enough. That's a kasha to Rav Papa, who says shivcha sa has no ne'emanos. Answer: shivcha sa nami ka'atzma dami. It's all one and the same. When it's your maidservant, it's just as good or just as bad as yourself, because they're so close emotionally, and the shivcha is not motivated to go and report on her master, on her mistress. Rav Ashi Omar Hava Hava Shivcha Dida. Rav Ashi takes a different approach. He says even by the woman's shivcha there is ne'emanos at times. It depends, what you're expecting the shivcha to do. So, in the case of the captured woman, we say a shivcha would work. In the case of the get, if you need a shivcha to come and observe their interaction and report on it, she's not ne'eman. Why? Listen to this. A big difference. The shivcha, because this maidservant, michsa chazya v'shaska, she'll observe something and keep quiet. That much she'll do. If her silence is beneficial to her master, she'll keep quiet. But that's it. You're not going to expect it to actually testify falsely. That's already another step. At most, she'll keep quiet and that's it. Oh, so Hossam, in the case of the get, where the concern is that perhaps they interacted together, so the shivcha's presence poses no deterrence, nothing. The shtikasa matirasa, because over there, all you need is her silence. As long as she doesn't report on what happened, as long as she doesn't tell us what she saw, that is sufficient to be mata de isha, right? The concern is that perhaps she interacted with her husband after the get was issued, right? Shivcha's presence doesn't stand in the way of any interaction, because even if something does occur, she'll keep quiet. That much she'll do. Therefore, she's not to be relied on for anything. Maybe something happened and she kept quiet. As opposed to the kohenes, the shvuya, the captured woman. If the shivcha remains silent, the isha is asr. Because over here you need edus to undo concerns. You need an aid to testify that she's pure. A shivcha wouldn't do that. If she knows that it's not true, she wouldn't go ahead and she wouldn't falsify the fact. That's already going a step further. So the fact that the shivcha gets up and says, I can vouch for my mistress's purity, that has ne'emanos. Mehemna shishish believed. Asks the Gemara why. Hashtanami asya mashakra. Here as well. Maybe she'll come forth and lie. Tactically, of the two things she wouldn't do. Not only to conceal the truth, but even to falsify the fact. That's already two things. That's already going a bit too far. She wouldn't dare do that. And therefore she is ne'eman when she claims that her mistress is pure. Where do we find this distinction between remaining silent and actually falsifying the facts? Ki had Mari bar Isak. There was this fellow called Mari bar Isak. Some say it was Chana bar Isak. Suddenly a brother showed up, purported brother, alleged brother, from Chizah. Amar lei, so this brother claims to Mari bar Isak that he's in the family. Plaguely b'nichsadam, the father passed away. I get a portion of the nechasim. Amar lei lo yidanalach. He tells him, what do you mean? I never saw you before. You're not my brother. Lo yidanalach. So this fellow, this new arrival, comes complaining to Rav Chizda. How could that be? I'm a brother. They don't know who I am. They deny. Amar leis, he says, it makes sense. Shaper kamalach. It can make sense that that he doesn't recognize you because you left him when you were young, before you had a beard. When the brothers confronted Yosef, he recognized them, but they didn't recognize him. Why? Because he left them when he was still young, before he grew a beard. Now he met them with a beard, so they didn't recognize him, but he recognized them. Here as well, you left town when you were young. I understand why Mari bar Isak doesn't recognize you. Amar Lesi tells this newcomer, Zil Isis Sadi, Dachmat. You have to prove that you are a brother. Bring Adam that you are his brother, and then you'll get part of the property. Amar Lesi, this fellow complained to Rav Chizda, look, I'm in a quandary. Isli Sadi, I have Adam, plenty of Adam. But they're petrified to come and offer testimony. This fellow, Mari bar Isak, the Gavar Amu, he's a violent fellow. Nobody wants to get near him. Amar lei l'didei. So Chizah turns to Mari bar Isak. If that's the case, then you have to prove your case. Zilai sinuat, delab achuchu. You prove the onus is on you. You prove that he's not your brother. Amar lei. So this fellow turns to Rav Chizah. Pretty tough fellow. Amar lei dinu hachi. Is that the way you conduct it in Torah? What do you mean? I have to prove against him. Hamaitzi mechaver. All right. Who's the maitzi? Who's trying to extract property? It's the other fellow. He has to prove his case. I don't have to defend myself. That's the halacha. Chizah tells him, typically that's true, but here's an exception. Hachi. In this manner, the inan halacha, I apply the din to you. This is the way I treat you, ulukuli almi, and all the violent people like you. Ulukuli almi chabrach, all your friends, the almim, the mafia. You deserve special treatment. Okay, so bottom line is, Rav Chizda was satisfied with Mari bar Isak bringing Adam that this newcomer, this so-called brother, is not a brother, right? Why is he going to rely on those Adam? Maybe Mari bar Isak manipulated them. Maybe he got two people to testify on his behalf. His personality, this Mari bar Isak, maybe he pulled it off. Just like the other Adam wouldn't dare come and confront Mari bar Isak in support of this fellow, right? They were scared. So at the same time, perhaps Mari bar Isak arranged for two Adam to falsify the facts. Oh, two things a person wouldn't do. Meaning, to conceal the fact, that's one thing. But to falsify the fact, that's already too far. We're not choshesh that Mari bar Isak was able to arrange that. So back to our case with the Shivcha, if she is testifying about her mistress's purity, that's okay. This question of whether the Isha's personal Shivcha has ne'amanos to vouch for her purity, perhaps is a machlokes tanoi. The Brisa says, Zu edus, when it comes to this type of edus, which edus? To support the Isha's purity under these types of circumstances, anybody is acceptable. Ish, ve'isha, tinaik is a man, a woman, a young boy, young girl, avi ima, even her own mother and father. V'achia, her brother and sister, even relatives are ne'eman. Aval, but not somebody that's too close to home, and perhaps given to intimidation. Aval ibna ubita le'avda le'shivchasa, her son, daughter, slave and maidservant. So her shivcha is not ne'eman. V'tani idach, hakol ne'eman l'hoid. Chutz memeno bala. We have another brayso which says that everybody is ne'eman except for herself, and her husband. It would seem that brayso number 1 believes the shivcha, and brayso number 2 doesn't. Sorry, the other way. Brisa number 1 does not. Brisa number 2 does. Now, if we go back to the beginning of the sugya, we had 3 Amoraim. Rav Papi, Rav Papa, and Rav Ashi. According to Rav Papi and Rav Ashi, even her personal shivcha is Neman. Rav Papi says, Shvuya, it's only a chumrah. We allow the fullest leniency. Rav Ashi says, even her shivcha, she perhaps remains silent, but she wouldn't falsify the facts. The bottom line is, according to these 2 shittas, Rav Papi and Rav Ashi, her shivcha is Neman. Says the Gemara, Rav Papi and Rav Ashi, Tanoi, according to them, it's certainly Machlekes Tanoim, and they will follow the second brisa, that even her shivcha is Neman. But then we had a third shita, Rav Papa, who held, no, her shivcha has no ne'emanos. So the Rav Papa Milema Tanai, according to Rav Papa, do you have to say that this question is given to Machlekes Tanoim, Lema Tanai, or perhaps you can sort of wiggle out of it. You can say, maybe even the Bryce, which seems to say that the shivcha is neman, will somehow, be interpreted to follow this shita as well. Amar al Papa, yeah, indeed, I can do that. Ketanya, when the Bryce says that even the shivcha is neman, we're speaking under special circumstances. She's not coming to testify. If she's coming to testify, then we're concerned about falsification. But she's just conversing casually. We have this Gemara in Yivamas, even a guy. If he's just saying over a story, Lefituma, he's not trying to testify, not trying to prove any point, then we believe him. It's as though we see the facts in front of us. The person just speaking naturally is raya to the truth. And that's the case in the Bryce. The shivcha just happened to be conversing about the story, and the Isha was unaffected, etc., then we believe it. But if she's motivated by the halacha, she's trying to accomplish tahara for her mistress, perhaps she's motivated by trying to find favor in her eyes, and she's not believed. Such as in the following story, where Rav Dimi came, Rav Dimi Amar, he said as follows: Rav Chanan, that was his name, Kartigno, from the town of Kartigi, Mishtoi, said over the following story: Masaba Lofnei Rav Shimon Levi. It was a story that came to Rabbi Shimon Levi. But some say it was a different gerus. Rabbi Shimon Levi Mishtoi. Rabbi Shimon Levi was the one who said over the story. Masaba Lofnei Rebbe. A story came to Rebbe. What was the story? A fellow. Suddenly he's conversing. He's saying over stories. He wasn't trying to be matter the Isha. He just came back from a traumatic experience. He was amongst the Goyim, and he's debriefing himself. V'amar, and he said, look, this is what happened. Ani v'imi nishbeinu l'beinu ibdei kechavim. My mother and myself, we were captured by the Goyim. Wow, what an experience. Yatsasi, but I was so dedicated to my mother. Yatsasi l'shev mayim dat yal imi. When I went out to draw water, I was still focusing on my mother and keeping an eye on her, making sure the Goyim don't get near her. Likewise, when I went to gather some wood, dat yal imi, I had my mother in mind. And he was saying over the story, and basically, Rebbe hears from him that his mother was safe. It wasn't in the context of testimony, he was just saying over a story. Rebbe Lakun al Piv, and based on this story, Masiach Lefitum, a casual conversation, Rebbe was mater, the mother, assuming she was safe and sound. So if it's Masiach Lefitum, has extra value and extra weight. So what are we doing today? We started with the guy who arrested the family, Aliskin Nefashos, capital punishment matters. Then the Isha is considered questionable. Her status is questionable because perhaps they mistreated her. We had a case of the wife of the Ganav, the wife of the Reitzeyach. We had a question whether it's only after Gemar Din or not. Mishnah spoke about a city which was taken in by the Karkoim, by the soldiers. the Kehanas are in trouble. The Brisa seems to say otherwise. During Milchama, there's no time. To Terutzim, by the Noshim, there's a greater Yetzer Hara. Another terrorist was, well, if it's a foreign legion, they're not concerned about the well-being of the locals, and therefore there's a concern. And that's the case in our Mishnah as well. If there's a hiding place, everybody's okay. But let's say there's only room for one person, then we had a question on that. We had another question. Let's say she acknowledges she didn't go into hiding, but she says, I'm still tar. There's a migu. Is that okay or not? We had a shayla, we left it off with a question mark. Who is believed that the Isha is tar? Anybody. Except for herself, her husband, son and daughter. What about her shifcha? Oh, so according to our Papa and Rav Ashi, it's Machlekes Tanaim, according to our Papa, she's not Ne'eman. The Brisa, which seems to indicate otherwise, is speaking about a unique case of Masiach Lefi Tumay. All the best to you, Machatzlach.